Tumejenga, tumemaliza. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Huyu Mark na Moroto wakati walikuja kuuliza hii barabara, tulisema itafika Konyao, lakini mimi nataka niwaeleze sasa, tutatoa Konyao tupeleke mpaka Alale. Vile vile 2017 nilikuja hapa, nikaenda pale Chemnyal kanisa. Watu wa Chemnyal wakaniambia wanataka soko iunganishwe na Chepareria kwa barabara ya lami. Leo mimi nataka niwatangazie hiyo barabara kutoka Chepareria kwenda Chemnyal mpaka soko. Saa hii kontrakta amefika nusu, tutamaliza hiyo barabara. Na ikifika pale soko, baadaye tunataka kutoa hiyo barabara kutoka soko mpaka ifike Tibet kule karibu na Takwe, ndio dunia hiyo yote ifunguke. Mnanielewa? Vile vile mlituuliza tujenge barabara kutoka Kasai mpaka Kapsama mpaka Sondan. Hiyo barabara saa hii inaendelea kutengenezwa. Wakati nilikuja mambo ya amani kule Tesego, tulikubaliana ya kwamba ile barabara tulianzisha Loruk ikakuja Parbelo, sasa itafika Tot, itakuja ifike Lomut na ifike mpaka Marich Pass. Hapo tukiongea na nyinyi saa hizi kuna contractor pale. Na wakati nilienda college ile ya Chester, wananchi walinieleza ya kwamba iko shida ya daraja pale Weiwei River na iko shida ya daraja ingine Lomut. Hizo barabara mbili tuliweka milioni 800, tumejenga, moja imeisha, ingine itaisha hivi karibuni. Watu wa West Pokot, mimi nataka niwaambie, when I told you, wakati niliwaeleza hii West Pokot tutabadilisha, I meant every word of it. Kwa sababu siku nyingi West Pokot hii ilibaguliwa, ikabaki nyuma, ikawekwa sifa mbaya, ati ni wezi wa ng'ombe, ati wanafanya hii. Lakini West Pokot ni nchi ya amani na ni nchi ya Mungu. Ninyi mnanielewa jameni? 2013 tulikuwa na college hata moja, hakukuwa na college hapa West Pokot. Leo tumejenga college 6. Moja yao ni hii tumefungua hapa leo. Ingine tumejenga hapa Kodich, nilienda kuanzisha. Ingine tumejenga kule Chepareria tuliweka hapo lakini imekwama. Ingine tuliweka kule Sigor na imekamilika. Tulijenga college ya Chester ya walimu. Tumejenga college ya KMTC hapo Makutano ya wauguzi, kumaanisha ya kwamba Kenya inaweza kubadilishwa kwa mipango ya maendeleo. Hapa West Pokot, stima ilikuwa kupatikana hapa ilikuwa balaa kubwa sana. Wakati wa 2013 watu 4,000 peke yake walikuwa na stima West Pokot mzima. Lakini mimi nataka niseme hii dunia inazidi na kubadilika, kwa sababu kufikia sasa tuko na watu 20,000 ambao tumewaunganishia stima from 4,000. Na kabla ya mwisho wa mwaka ujao tutakuwa tumefikisha watu 25,000, na bado tutasonga mbele mpaka West Pokot ikuwe na mataa kila mahali. Ndugu zangu watu wa West Pokot, tutembee pamoja katika kazi hiyo ama mnataka turudishe nyuma? Tutatembea pamoja? Sasa mimi nataka niwaulize, mtacheza karata ya pata potea na guesswork ya watu ambao hawajui wanatafuta West Pokot kwa Google Map, hawajawahi kuja hapa. Mtacheza karata na wao tunatembea pamoja. Siku ile niliwaambia West Pokot itabadilika. Imebadilika ama bado? Sasa niwaulize, kama tumefanya haya yote, mimi nikiwa deputy president, sasa mjiulize, rafiki zangu, hapa mbele tunataka tujipange vizuri, kwa sababu matapeli ni wengi wa siasa, wakora na waongo wako hapa mbele wengi. Ati saa hizi wanatuambia ati shida ya Kenya ni ukabila, ati twende tubadilishe katiba ndio kiongozi wa kabila hii na kabila ile wapate vyeo. Mimi ninawaambia shida ya Kenya si ukabila, my friends. Shida ya Kenya ni uchumi. Tubadilishe uchumi, vijana hawa wapate kazi, kina mama wafanye biashara, wawe na chakula na pesa kwa mfuko. Kenya itabadilika. Mimi nauliza nyinyi, mko na shida na Waluya? Mko na shida na Wakikuyu? Mko na shida na Wajaluo? Shida ni gani? Si ni uchumi? Si unataka pesa kwa mfuko na chakula kwa tumbo? Uko na shida ya ukabila? Hawa watu tunawaambia wacheni uongo, my friends. Tuko pamoja? Tunaelewana? Mimi nataka munisikize vizuri, kwa sababu hawa watu wataletea utapeli. Wanatuambia tuko na shida ya katiba. Wametuzungusha miaka 4 ati tunataka kubadilisha katiba, ati ndio ipatikane cheo, ati ndio tugawane. Sisi tunawaambia shida sio katiba, shida ni sera. Tunataka kubadilisha sera, uchumi iwe bottom up. Tuanze na mwananchi hapa chini. Tumpe pesa mama mboga na mtu wa bodaboda, tumpe pesa mkulima, tumpe pesa mfugaji. Akiwa na pesa mfukoni watalipa ushuru, Kenya itaenda mbele. Hatutakuwa tunakopa pesa ya Machinese. Nyinyi mnanielewa? Tuko pamoja? So tunawaambia shida sio katiba, shida ni uchumi na sera. Sasa mbona watu hapa wanajua shida ni uchumi, na wale wanajifanya wamesoma Nairobi wanasema shida ni ukabila? Ni utapeli, ni utapeli mkubwa. Sasa eti wanatuambia ati lazima tupitishe BBI kwa kifua, ati tupende tusipende, ati na tusipopitisha, hata kama katiba imesema ama hata kama mahakama imesema ni kinyume ya katiba na kinyume na sheria, wanatuambia lazima mupitishe, na kama hamupitishi tutasongesha uchaguzi, tuendelee kuwatawala. Hivi tunawaambia Kenya ya impunity na ujinga wa kiasi hiyo, iliisha. Hakuna mtu mjinga tena Kenya. Ninyi mnanielewa? Tuko pamoja? Wangapi wanasema tutatembea barabara hiyo pamoja? So mimi nataka niwaambie marafiki zetu, juzi ama ni jana, yule mtu ya kitendawili na hadithi mingi alikuwa anasema ya kwamba ati wanapanga njama ya kunizuia, ati kwa sababu hawataki nitoe pesa ya kina mama kuendesha biashara, na hawataki nisaidie bodaboda, na hawataki nisaidie makanisa. Mimi nataka niwaambie hawa wangwana, nyinyi mmetuzoea vibaya, kwa sababu mmetufanyia biashara siku nyingi. Nyinyi hamutaki mtu yeyote asaidike Kenya hii. Mnataka watu wenye umaskini, mnataka watu wenye hawana namna, kwa sababu muko na biashara na umaskini. Nyinyi mnataka watu wawe maskini, wakose kazi, ndio wawaabudu na kuwapigia makofi. Sisi tunawaambia Kenya hii tutabadilisha, my friends. Kila mtu atakuwa mtu na atakuwa kitu na atakuwa na mali katika taifa letu la Kenya. Hiyo mumetuzoea eti kwa sababu nyinyi mko na mali, mnataka hawa wasiokuwa na mali wasisaidike, ndio waendelee kuwaabudu, ndio waendelee kuwapigia makofi. Sisi tunawaambia wajinga wameisha. Hii mwaka wa 2022 tutaunda serikali ya mwananchi wa kawaida wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Nyinyi mko tayari? Nyinyi mko tayari? Sasa pia wanatuambia ya kwamba wanataka kutugawanya, ati kila community iende ianzishe chama yao, ati ndio tugawanyike. Sisi tunawaambia Hustler Nation is a national movement. Hustler Nation haiwezi kutoshea kwa chama ya kabila na haiwezi kutoshea kwa chama ya sehemu fulani. Hustler Nation is a national movement that fits only in a national party. Nyinyi mnanielewa? Kwa hivyo hata wale wengine wanataka ati kuanzisha chama ya kona hapa, mimi nawaambia wacheni hiyo barabara. Kama hatungekuwa na chama ya kitaifa, hii maendeleo tuko nayo West Pokot tungekuwa nayo? Tungeunda serikali? Utaunda serikali na chama ya kabila yako? Unaunda serikali na chama ya kitaifa. You cannot use an ethnic vehicle to arrive at a national destination. Ninyi mnanielewa? Tuko pamoja? Tumekubaliana? Harambee! Siasikia UDA vizuri. Harambee! Harambee! UDA! UDA! Boda boda! Mama mboga! Makanga! Mwalimu! Mfanyabiashara! Allah! Amani yake. Sisi unasema kazi ni kazi. Bas, mimi nataka nimalize kwa kusema hivi. Wakati nilipanga safari hii, ndugu yetu Mheshimiwa Ruto aliniambia parish ya kanisa ya hapa imeanzishwa na wanahitaji msaada wa kujenga. So kwa sababu nilikuwa nakuja shughuli hii, wapi father, niko hapa na shilingi 1,500 wanaweza kwenda kuanzia hapo. Alafu wakifika hapo mbele nitakuja nitawasukuma tena. Wale wanaosimamia college hii wameniambia wanahitaji madarasa na wameniambia wanahitaji hostels. Kwanza mimi nataka niwaambie watu wa sehemu hii, wale mnaishi ngambo hii hapa kwa barabara hapa, kwanza nyinyi anzeni kujenga hostel, sisi tutawalipa pesa. Kwani nyinyi hamtaki pesa? Mko na pesa ya kutosha? Jenga hostel hapa, tutakodesha. Anza kujenga wewe. Ama namna gani? Kwani nyinyi hamtaki pesa? Anza kujenga hostel hapo. Ala. Kwani ama si kila mtu apate kitu kwa hii college? Kwani mnataka hii college ifaidi watu wachache? Sasa tuanze kwanza kujenga hapa hostel kila mtu. Uza ng'ombe, kuja jenga hostel hapo, tutakulipa pesa. Utaweka pesa mfuko kila mwezi. Wewe namna gani bwana? Sawa. Lakini nimesikia yale wamesema. Tutaweka hapa mpango ili tusaidiane wakati tutajenga hostels hapa, na nyinyi pia mjenge hostels katika sehemu hiyo nyingine. Alafu siku hiyo nyingine nikirudi, wameniuliza kwamba wanataka pia van ya shule, and we will see what we will do, bwana principal. So mimi nimefurahi sana kufika hapa. Mimi nawatakia baraka ya Mungu. Tuko pamoja West Pokot? Tuko pamoja? Na mkipata rafiki yangu profesa mwambie Hasla amesema akuje kwa Hasla movement. Ama namna gani? Hawaje kupigisha kona, ataenda kona mahali nyingine. Siku ile mimi naunda serikali, mnataka West Pokot wawe wanaomba huko nje? Kama mko na nafasi ya mpango kamili, wewe uko na haja gani na mpango ya kando? Ama kama uko na nafasi ya mpango kamili, uko na haja na mpango ya kando? Wacha na mpango ya kando. Mpango ya kando iko na kisirani mingi. Simuona mpango ya kando iko ingine kwa mtandao. Jamaa mwingine aliingia kwa matope kwa mpango ya kando. So mjihadhari sana. So asanteni sana. Mimi nawatakia heri, nawatakia baraka ya Mungu. Nimeona hawa wangwana wamesema tuko na watu ya majemedari wa UDA hapa. Kabla sijatoka hapa tutakuwa tumepangana na Moroto. Alafu ndio tujue mambo itaenda namna gani. Asanteni sana na watakia baraka ya Mungu. God bless you. Thank you.
Your Excellency, kuna masawadi. Ngoja nieleze. Your Excellency, kuna masawadi hapo, unaweza kupokea masawadi yako. Na nimeambia watu sasa Deputy President anachukuli mpaka mahali pengine na tuwezi kuaibisha wale watoto wa secondary. Na msikuje huko, waje yeye mwenyewe ataenda weka na kutoka Tuboro ya Kanyake area hiyo kwa baraka. Amewaachia nyinyi baraka hapa ya kanisa, tumeomba father, amewaachia baraka ya one coordinators wote na madj kidogo, mtaonana na huyu kijana, amewapatia chakula kidogo ya soda. 100,000 tatosha nyinyi.
Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Hebu mnisalimie hewani hivi nione Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Basi mimi kwanza nataka nimshukuru Mungu ametupatia nafasi tumefika hapa West Pokot. Nataka nimshukuru mjumbe wetu Mheshimiwa Moroto kwa kuwa kiongozi ambaye amesimamia ujenzi wa college hii wakati nilikubaliana na yeye. Tuko na shughuli nyingi katika kaunti hii na nataka nimshukuru Mheshimiwa Moroto kwa sababu tumeanza na yeye mbali, na leo tunatembea safari hii kubadilisha Pokot ya Magharibi. Watu wa West Pokot, nataka mnisikize vizuri. Mimi si mgeni kwenu, nyinyi mnanijua, ni kweli ama si kweli? Nilisimama hapa West Pokot karibu miaka 9 iliyopita na niliwaambia ya kwamba hii West Pokot, ile sifa ya zamani ya njaa na vita na mambo ya ambayo yanaturudisha nyuma, itakuwa ni mambo yenye itafichwa na itazikwa kwenye kaburi ya sahau, kwa sababu tutabadilisha West Pokot hii. Nilikuja hapa nikawaambia hii West Pokot lazima ibadilike, na niliwaambia itabadilishwa na miradi na mipango ya maendeleo. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Leo nikisimama West Pokot namshukuru Mungu kwa sababu naona mabadiliko imekuja West Pokot. Nilikuja hapa na nikawaeleza ya kwamba tutawajengea barabara kutoka Makutano kupitia Kacheliba mpaka Konyao, kilomita karibu 80. Tumejenga hatujajenga? Tumejenga. Nilikuja hapa nikawaambia tutajenga barabara kutoka Cheptonge kule Barakwet mpaka Kamatia, kilomita karibu 80. Hiyo barabara tumejenga, tumemaliza. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Huyu Mark na Moroto wakati walikuja kuuliza hii barabara tulisema itafika Konyao, lakini mimi nataka niwaeleze sasa tutatoa Konyao tupeleke mpaka Alale. Vile 2017 nilikuja hapa nikaenda pale Chemnyal kanisa, watu wa Chemnyal wakaniambia wanataka soko iunganishwe na Chepareria kwa barabara ya lami. Leo mimi nataka niwatangazie hiyo barabara kutoka Chepareria kwenda Chemnyal mpaka soko. Saa hii kontrakta amefika nusu, tutamaliza hiyo barabara. Na ikifika pale soko, baadaye tunataka kutoa hiyo barabara kutoka soko mpaka ifike Tibet kule karibu na Takwe, ndio dunia hiyo yote ifunguke. Mnanielewa? Vile mulituuliza tujenge barabara kutoka Kasai mpaka Kapsama mpaka Sondani. Hiyo barabara saa hii inaendelea kutengenezwa. Wakati nilikuja mambo ya amani kule Tesego, tulikubaliana ya kwamba ile barabara tulianzisha Loruk ikakuja Parbelo, sasa itafika Tot, itakuja ifike Lomut na ifike mpaka Marich Pass hapo. Tukiongea na nyinyi saa hizi kuna contractor pale, na wakati nilienda college ile ya Chester, wananchi walinieleza ya kwamba iko shida ya daraja pale Weiwei River na iko shida ya daraja ingine Lomut. Hizo barabara mbili tuliweka milioni 800, tumejenga, moja imeisha, ingine itaisha hivi karibuni. Watu wa West Pokot, mimi nataka niwaambie, when I told you, wakati niliwaeleza hii West Pokot tutabadilisha, I meant every word of it. Kwa sababu siku nyingi West Pokot hii ilibaguliwa, ikabaki nyuma, ikawekwa sifa mbaya, ati ni wezi wa ng'ombe, ati wanafanya hii. Lakini West Pokot ni nchi ya amani na ni nchi ya Mungu. Ninyi mnanielewa jameni? 2013 tulikuwa na college hata moja, hakukuwa na college hapa West Pokot. Leo tumejenga college 6. Moja yao ni hii tumefungua hapa leo. Ingine tumejenga hapa Kodich, nilienda kuanzisha. Ingine tumejenga kule Chepareria tuliweka hapo lakini imekwama. Ingine tuliweka kule Sigor na imekamilika. Tulijenga college ya Chester ya walimu. Tumejenga college ya KMTC hapo Makutano ya wauguzi, kumaanisha ya kwamba Kenya inaweza kubadilishwa kwa mipango ya maendeleo. Hapa West Pokot, stima ilikuwa kupatikana hapa ilikuwa balaa kubwa sana. Wakati wa 2013 watu 4,000 peke yake walikuwa na stima West Pokot mzima. Lakini mimi nataka niseme hii dunia inazidi na kubadilika, kwa sababu kufikia sasa tuko na watu 20,000 ambao tumewaunganishia stima from 4,000, na kabla ya mwisho wa mwaka ujao tutakuwa tumefikisha watu 25,000, na bado tutasonga mbele mpaka West Pokot ikuwe na mataa kila mahali. Ndugu zangu, watu wa West Pokot, tutembee pamoja katika kazi hiyo, ama mnataka turudishe nyuma? Tutatembea pamoja. Sasa mimi nataka niwaulize, mtacheza karata ya pata potea na guesswork ya watu ambao hawajui, wanatafuta West Pokot kwa Google Map, hawajawahi kuja hapa? Mtacheza karata na wao? Tunatembea pamoja. Siku ile niliwaambia West Pokot itabadilika. Imebadilika ama bado? Sasa niwaulize, kama tumefanya haya yote, mimi nikiwa deputy president, sasa mjiulize, kujenga mashule. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Kuanzia mwaka ujao, mbali na milioni 100 ya CDF, tutaweka milioni 100 ingine kila mwaka, kila constituency, ya kupatia hawa biashara ndogo ndogo pesa ya kufanya biashara, ndio tuweze kuzalisha uchumi hapa chini, tuanze kufukuza umaskini. Mimi nauliza nyinyi, na ndio mnaona wanaume wamekasirika na mimi Kenya, lakini nimewaambia liwe liwalo, juu na chini, Kenya hii ni yetu sisi wote bwana. Ama ni aje? Kwani inasemekana Hasla hana haki? Yako na haki? Uhuru Kenyatta akienda retire mwaka ujao, nani anaelewa hii kazi kuliko Hasla? Yani tuseme tu kweli. Tuseme tu kweli. Mimi nataka niwaulize, si nyinyi mnajua, si nilisaidia Uhuru 2013 mpaka akakuwa president? Si 2017 nilisukuma Uhuru tena mpaka akakuwa president? Hata siku ile Maraga alilete kisirani, si mimi nilisimama na Uhuru mpaka akakuwa president? Sasa mimi nikisema safari hii wacha nisimame na mahasla hawa, iko makosa? Iko makosa? Iko makosa nikisema mpaka mama mboga awe na mfuko kwa pesa kwa mfuko? Iko makosa jameni? Sasa mbona watu wananikasirikia bure? Kwani mahasla wako na makosa gani? Hapa tuko na seneta wa Meru anaitwa Metheka Lentore.
Aya! Gobo vijana! Nyinyi tukienda mbele kule, munaona yule mtu ataweza kusaidia Uhuru Kenyatta kumalizia kazi zake. Nikitendawili ama ni Hasla? Nikitendawili ama ni Hasla? Watu wa Gembe North tunasema ni Hasla, tunasema ni Hasla. Sasa nyinyi ndio mtachagua kiongozi yule mnayemtaka. Sisi katika timu ya Hasla tunakubali kila mtu aweze kuingia kwa Hasla, tupange kupeleka Kenya mbele. Tuko pamoja sababu tuko hapa. Priority yetu tukiwa hapa ni mbimbi yae ama ni soko kufunguliwa ya miraa? Ni soko ya miraa ama ni mbimbi yae? Ni soko ya miraa ama ni mbimbi yae?
Sasa nimesema 2022 mwaka ujao ni nafasi ya mahasla wote. Mama mboga, mtu ya wheelbarrow, mtu ya mkokoteni, mama wa kioski hapa, yule wa saloon pale, kila mmoja wetu lazima tutafute nafasi ya kumwezesha kila Mkenya afanye biashara, ndio tuweze kuondoa umaskini Kenya hii.
Vijana wenzetu, hapa tumefika leo kupiga siasa ya hasla. Wale ambao wanaamini Ruto 2022 wainue mkono. William Ruto for president 2022. Na mimi Engineer Kagwema nitakuwa na nyinyi mpaka mwisho kwa chama za hasla. Tutengeneze serikali ya mahasla ambayo inajali mama mboga, ambayo inajali mtu wa mkokotani, ambayo shughuli yetu saizi ni miraa. Watu wetu mambo ya BBI hatuna. Ile mipango tuko nayo sasa ni ya soko ya miraa. Asanteni, Mungu abariki timu hasla.
MCA wa hapa wote waweze kukaribia hapa. Mheshimiwa Mudhuri, Mheshimiwa Akili,
Mheshimiwa William Ruto, tulikuja kuchanga pesa ya kupigania.
Mimi nataka niulize, ni hasla anaweza hii kazi ama ni wale? Wangapi wanasema ni hasla anaweza hii?
It was attached the Star headline. You know, there are those who said then that if in fact, as you say, it wasn't said in that meeting, as the leaders Kalonzo and Mutua, governor, have confirmed who were present, but it does give an indication of if it were true, if in fact he was to say that, that is your feeling, that you have in essence communicated in this tweet, because it talks about that don't we merit support, sawa tu tutajipanga. Ni kama waona ajarudisha mkono after all you and the 8 million supporters did.
Not really, Wanuna. You know, I am on record saying publicly that when I chose to support Uhuru Kenyatta for president, it was not conditional. I did not tell him I'm supporting you so that you support me. Right?
Yeah.
And
when you have been in power, but now you're telling us about this bright future.
I will answer you, Sophia.
Yeah.
Let me say the following.
Yes.
You agree that we have built close to 10,000 kilometers of tarmac, do you? That's the truth. We have connected close to 8 million people to electricity. We have built almost 140 new technical training colleges. In fact, the students in Tibet have increased from 80,000 to almost 500,000.
Correct.
Including, if you read our statistics last week, 15,000 young people who were called to go to university, they actually opted to go to Tibet because Tibet is giving them new opportunities.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
You yourself, Sophia, have said, I am a titular deputy president. So explain to me how you can at the same time ask a titular deputy president without roles.
Indeed, thank you very much, Kisa Wandera. I believe our viewers are duly briefed on today's top stories. And now to that moment we have all been waiting for, the Crossfire Special, a one-on-one conversation with the Deputy President, William Ruto. Your Excellency, thank you so much for once again making time for Crossfire, allowing us to be here at your official residence to discuss quite a number of issues. So we are appreciative for granting us this opportunity to have the interview.
Most welcome, Sophia.
Yeah.
And thank you also for having me on this set so that we can have a discussion about our great nation.
Right. And let's get straight into it. And I want to begin with what was attributed to have been sentiments of the president by a section of the media, that he had said just recently that come the next year's general election, he could back one of the NASA principals to run for office of president. What did you make of that sentiment?
Well, it's not good manners, Sophia, to discuss your boss. So I would want as much as possible to avoid discussing what the president has said, because, you know, he is my boss, and it is not correct for me to discuss my boss on a TV interview.
Yeah. Well, you, in essence, did respond and react to that in a tweet that you posted, and we can put it up for our viewers to see. It was just, again, just this month. And perhaps, eucho, maybe we begin with, what does that mean? We have it on screen there. Eucho. Maybe for me, that part is the one, but it goes on to say, Gai Fafa Mwadhani. So what happens to the Durakus, the Kumera contingent, the 8 million of us? None, no youth, no woman, no man of the 8 million who woke up early and voted 3 times for UK WSR ticket. Merit support? Sawa tu tutajipanga na support ya Mungu. Wasn't that, in essence, reacting to that?
I was reacting to the newspaper.
Which was citing the president.
The headline in the newspaper.
Yeah.
As to whether the president said it or not, and I highly doubt that the president would actually tell anybody that kind of thing. And in fact, I think subsequently, a person who was in that meeting, the Wiper leader, actually said nothing of the sort was said by the president. So my reaction there, because newspapers have the tendency of saying all manner of things and insinuations, and sometimes half-truths. So because I do not think either myself or the president will forget that there were millions of Kenyans who believed in us and who voted for us and who subscribe to what we believe in. And they came out in large numbers to support us. And it would really take a miracle for any one of us to turn our backs on these people. Even if, for argument's sake, even if anybody thinks William Ruto does not fit the bill, there are 8 million people in Jubilee, and it must not necessarily be William Ruto. If you can't support William Ruto for one reason or another, there are many other leaders. There's many other people in Jubilee that can merit that support. So I think that issue was vacated when actually it was confirmed that the president did not say that.
But for some, in terms of interpretation, in seeing that, and it was attached, the Star headline, there are those who said, then that, if in fact, as you say, it wasn't said in that meeting, as the leaders, Kalonzo and Mutua, governor, have confirmed who were present, but it does give an indication of, if it were true, if in fact he was to say that, that is your feeling, that you have, in essence, communicated in this tweet, because it talks about that don't we merit support, sawa tu tutajipanga. Ni kama waona ajarudisha mkono after all you and the 8 million supporters did.
Not really, Wanuna. You know, I am on record saying publicly that when I chose to support Uhuru Kenyatta for president, it was not conditional. I did not tell him I'm supporting you so that you support me. Right?
Yeah.
And I have been, with a lot of clarity, in public and in private, to say President Uhuru Kenyatta owes me no debt. Correct. Right? And no community for that matter, you know. I will be running like any other Kenyan, and I want to be judged by my track record. And by what I believe in, and by my ability of what transformation I can bring about in Kenya. All right. So that's really the whole story. Belonging to one outfit, of course, creates a synergy, you know, and brings people together. And people understand each other better, and they can support each other better. That's why I also believe very strongly that our politics should be organized, not around individuals, not around personalities, not around tribes, but around political parties, so that we can speak to issues, and so that we can judge leaders not against the community they come from or the region they come from, but against the belief of their political party, their philosophy, their issues, the way the position on issues that can then transform the country.
Yeah.
Because when you elect a president, you don't elect a president for a community or a region or a tribe.
So
you elect
the
president of Kenya.
Correct.
Right? And that kind of a person must have the perspective of the nation.
Yeah.
And Jubilee, we spent a lot of energy and time and resources.
All right.
We invested a lot of emotion in putting it together. Unfortunately, it has been destroyed by people who don't appreciate that the way to de-ethnicize the politics of our country is to organize our politics around political parties.
Indeed,
and when you destroy political parties, you actually take away from our political organization, and we regress. We are engaging the reverse gear. We are going backwards. I want to promise the nation that I intend to build with the whole of my ability a political party, a national political party that will bring Kenyans together, communities together, people from all regions together, because I believe that it is in the institution of a political party that a better Kenya is visible.
Is visible. And that, the sentiment, you also tweeted about that, the dismembering and destruction of Jubilee, a national party meant to pave way, you said, in that tweet earlier as well in the month, for support of regional tribal parties in NASA, you questioned. Now with the collapse of Jubilee, isn't it fair for those who can't fit into ethnic parties to build UDA as an alternative national party? So then, Your Excellency, I would ask, from where you see it, for all intents and purposes, is Jubilee as a party dead?
Jubilee is badly damaged. You know, the hemorrhage. We have never had a party retreat. We've never had a party meeting. We've never had a party PG, except the PGs that have been called to expel members. You know, there has never been a constructive engagement. You know, and a party is built on trust. It is built on engagement. You must work with people. You must not underestimate people. You must not look down, you know. Even the smallest in the party have something to say. They deserve a hearing. They deserve to be appreciated, you know. So unfortunately, a party we spend so much time, energy, resources, and emotion to put together has been dismembered and destroyed. And let me tell you, Sophia, that we almost got there, you know. The reason why NASA was created is because we put a lot of pressure in the different political parties in NASA when we created Jubilee. Jubilee became so big that ODM on its own, Wiper on its own, Ford Kenya on its own, would not dare run in a contest with us. That's why they went to create NASA. I wish we would have held Jubilee together. If we would have held Jubilee together, NASA would have been forced to be together. And progressively, we would then have two national political formations. We would then need not have these tribal things in political parties, and we would then concentrate on issues.
So then that would be an indictment on the party leader, your boss, President Uhuru Kenyatta, because the buck does stop with him. To the extent that you speak of a hemorrhaging party, it would suggest that dead is not where you want to say it is, because maybe there is hope from where you sit. But bottom line is there is a leader, and perhaps he has let you all down.
I am part of that leadership. You know, I cannot apportion blame maybe to my boss. There are people who our party leader trusted to run the affairs of the party. Unfortunately, I believe they've let him down, and in the process, they've destroyed the party, unfortunately, right? I tried to step in, and when I saw that we weren't making the right decisions. But then when I went to the party headquarters,
yes,
it was construed, you know, in a very ridiculous manner to say I wanted to take over the party. And the party was closed. Some people there, because of impunity, said, oh, the deputy president is a persona non grata in this building, he should never step here, that kind of thing. So unfortunately,
and the president
there wasn't much.
The president didn't jump in to protect, because at the time they're doing that, and he's not coming in, because at the end of the day, when affairs of your house are going south, you will come and say...
With a lot of respect.
Yes.
We are not going to engage in a discussion of the president here. The president is my boss. I have tremendous respect for him. And I know him very well. He can speak for himself. He's very articulate. So please, let's just deal with William Ruto here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for many watching, perhaps it's just that there would be that question then going forward, that you think the party is hemorrhaging, the party was destroyed.
I mean, it's unfortunate that it wasn't possible for me to handle the situation. Yeah, that's really the regret I have. I wish I could have done something about it.
Like what?
But it became difficult. You know that, I mean, to organize the party, you know, because I made a huge contribution in bringing Jubilee to be, right? So it's really unfortunate that the people who were trusted with the running of the party
did not
let the party leader down, and in the process.
Yeah. With your permission, sir, just for our viewers on KTN Home, this interview continues on KTN News. You can switch over, and we continue with our conversation with the Deputy President. So, sir, at this point, as it stands, where you are building another party, UDA, the Hustler Nation, the question, why then not leave Jubilee and fully focus on this party, on this movement? What do you say to that?
Sophia, the events, you know, have been moving from one stage to another. I think finally, when it was announced, you remember I did say in one of the interviews that UDA is an option because it is a party that has in coalition with Jubilee. And we kept on trying to see whether we could work out things in Jubilee. But as fate would put it, the latest, of course, we heard from our friends Tuju and Murade is that they have decided to go and merge Jubilee with ODM, which in my opinion is the most tragic thing that can ever happen.
Why is that?
You know? Because how do you take a party that has 200 plus members of parliament, senators and governors, NMCAs, without an iota of consultation, without a single meeting without any reference. It doesn't matter how low you think of the people in the party.
Yeah.
They deserve reference. They deserve to be informed.
And yet, Your Excellency.
And to be involved in such a momentous decision. So that's why I say it is tragic.
And yet, Your Excellency, sitting back, one would say the elephant in the room is, in fact, as you say, you do not want to discuss, and I think this is largely about your feelings, that all of these things would not surely happen without the express permission, clearance of the president. Even some would say all of the things you've described that have led the party to where it is, it could not be that he's not aware of it, or all of these people are doing these things you describe as tragic without his express knowledge or even go ahead. Fair point?
You don't have facts to prove what you've said, Sophia. You don't know for sure. You don't know that the president has given approval, do you?
What I see in every other person, because perception, powerful, you and I know that. So if everything is going a certain direction, it is left for interpretation. But I'm open to hear a different view.
No,
but perhaps you think that
I'm
president...
just saying, you do not know for a fact, that there is express authority from the president to do this.
Or just allowing it.
No, you do not know for a fact.
Maybe he's just allowing it.
So since you do not have that knowledge, in fact, then it is unfair, since the president is not here, it's unfair for us to insinuate that maybe he gave approval, maybe he has...
So perhaps let me flip it. Have you had occasion, seeing all of these things going down, to ask the party leader, hey, what's going on here? Perhaps. Because then, I'd imagine at this point you'd be giving us more insight, because then you have a clearer picture.
That's fair. I have had occasion to discuss these matters with my boss.
Yeah.
And our discussion cannot be part of the discussion between me and you.
Okay. So then he's not given express permission, because you have challenged me, for which of course I do not have facts. I am speaking from perception. So then it would be, from what I'm hearing, that if conversations have happened, if I'm not getting you wrong, then there are rogue elements that do not heed authority that is in the party as it stands. Would I be wrong to say that?
Maybe you could be right that there are people who maybe have hijacked the party and they want to do whatever it is that they want to do. Yeah. But unfortunately, anyway, for the rest of us who believe that we have a contribution to make post this arrangement, we have to think about that future.
So to the original question, going back to that, why then stay in what really then sounds like a mess, a situation where things are just deteriorating, going down south day by day, different developments. Now there's talk of a merger, for which we'll discuss shortly. So why not fully throw yourself, get into building UDA proper? Why not?
Sophia, Sophia, you are Sophia and I am William.
Yes.
Yeah, this is how I want to do things. This is how I am wired to do things. Partly, it is my mess, because, you cannot discuss Jubilee without me. I am.
But you were told you're persona non grata.
Yeah, that's fine. Anybody can say whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's part of, I have to manage this situation in the best way that I know how.
But for how long do you stay, or are you in two parties? For how long?
No, let me tell you, Sophia, just relax. I can scale the stairs and I can chew gum at the same time without biting my tongue.
Even when the Political Parties Act says you should not propagate the ideals of another whilst you're in another different party.
Jubilee and UDA
are partners.
You know the answer to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
The interesting question that has come up off of some of these tweets that you have posted is, perhaps from where you sit, the sentiment in some quarters is that your relationship with the president is irrevocably broken. I wonder how tonight you would speak to Kenyans about the state of that relationship. There have been numerous developments around of national issues as well. So it is, of course, a concern out there. How is this thing working? Would you speak to that, sir?
Sophia, I have this to tell Kenyans. Mm-hmm. President Uhuru Kenyatta is the President of the Republic of Kenya. That will not change until an election is held mm-hmm. on the second Tuesday of August next year. William Ruto, seated here, is the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya until such time that the elections are held and a new one is elected.
Yeah.
Yeah? I have discharged my responsibilities as Deputy President in accordance with the Constitution. The Constitution gives me the function of assisting the President and giving him advice. At any one time when my advice is required, I have given without fail. Any assignment that the President has given to me, because it is in the Constitution, I have discharged that responsibility without fail. To the extent of complying with the Constitution, we are fair and square. There are no issues whatsoever. There is no duty that the President has assigned me as his deputy that I have not discharged. Every duty that has been assigned to me, I have gone the full hog to make sure that I discharge that responsibility.
And it would appear some of your duties, yes, as principal assistant to the President, have been since assigned to other people. Because the President, and I want us to play a clip of something he had to say at the Bomas of Kenya during a BBI event, felt that there was a point in which you were not aligned in agenda. So let's listen to that clip by President Kenyatta and we'll proceed with the discussion.
Race hii ni ile ya kuhandover, unajua? Ndio, inaitwa relay. Unakimbia ule mwingine anakugojea pale, anatakikana kukugojea ndio ashike aendelee, si ndio? Lakini sasa my brother William hapa amepinduka, anakimbia nyuma.
To the appear you went and whispered to him, unachoma manzio. But to the point he makes there, and remember before that at some point he talked about Tanga Tanga, that the President got to a point where he felt, whilst he was focused on delivering the promises he made to Kenyans and the Big Four agenda, that you were now focused on succeeding him, on your ambition to become the next president. He has given that analogy there. So would you say it is because largely what has been seen is you have a, say, for instance, Super CS who has been given many of the functions that we would see carry out, that you're pretty much now a titular deputy president there in name, but in terms of principally assisting the president, not so.
To that occasion which you have referred to at the Bomas of Kenya, the president there was speaking in jest, one. And when he said that, if you want to know what I was telling him, is I was telling him that he was almost handing over the baton to a member of a different team. That's what I was telling him. Right?
And when you say a member of a different team, you mean?
I mean, you can only hand over a baton to a member of your team in a relay.
So he was handing to Raila Odinga of team.
Relax.
Team ODM.
That's exactly what I was trying to tell him.
Yeah.
That the rest of us were worried that he was almost handing over the baton, maybe inadvertently, to a member of a different team, and that's why he was laughing. On the issue of handing over of functions to a CS, it is the president chooses the style of delivery of government business. And I respect. You have never heard me complain that the duties that naturally would be undertaken by the deputy president have been assigned to somebody else.
Yeah.
But we had a discussion, and the president suggested that this is how he wanted his second term to look like. And he wanted to try other hands to assist him in the delivery of these functions.
And yet you say he almost handed the baton to a different
that
player.
was a different. That was a different occasion.
Yeah.
These two are not the same. These two, we are not speaking this. We are not speaking to the same.
Yes, the point I'd wanted to talk about is because recently you have made the point that you felt he was passing the baton to an opponent, different team. Yet recently he has said that he feels he has achieved so much more in his second term, where things have not been rosy in as far as those relations and engagements and your duties, than he achieved in his first term, and that in fact graft was heavy in the first term. What do you say to that sentiment from the president?
You know, I have told you, Sophia, and I really want to persuade you, if we can discuss about William Ruto and not President Uhuru Kenyatta.
We are discussing.
The president is my boss. It's not for me to come to an interview and begin to answer or to give my opinion on what he said.
But in fairness, you have told us about that he was making a joke in that event when he said that.
Yes.
So now you are cherry picking where you are going to share.
I'm just telling you that it's not an occasion which we can discuss what the president has said. Has given his opinion that in the first term he has a different opinion of the first term and the second term. It is up to the people of Kenya to judge whether what has been delivered in first term and what was delivered in second term, and which is better, and even how valuable that is. We have a term. We have a Jubilee administration 10-year term, and we will be judged. This administration will be judged finally by the sum total of what was achieved. If you ask me, this administration, the legacy that Kenyans will remember of this administration will be on the infrastructure around the rail, on the infrastructure around roads, on the education infrastructure around TVET, and the whole area of reform of our education system to make it competence-based, to realign it more to be technical, right? This administration will be, legacy will be remembered around the connection of electricity, that has come. And all these, to my knowledge, all these four were first-term assignments. The second-term assignments, when we went to the people of Kenya, in our second term, we went to the people of Kenya on four aspects. On, number one, reforming the whole food security and agricultural value chains. The issue of universal health coverage, manufacturing, housing. Those are the four areas. It's up to Kenyans to judge how much has been achieved in our second term, with our program in our second term compared to the first term.
I want us to move on this forward, because there is the Building Bridges initiative that President Uhuru Kenyatta and his handshake partner have maintained is crucial to stopping the toxic politics that we witness in this country. Do you agree with that sentiment? Because you have appeared to disagree that that perhaps would be the silver bullet of ensuring stability in Kenya.
How so? How? You know, the problem in Kenya has always been the outcome of elections and the ability, not ability, the fact that contestants in an election are democratic enough to accept the outcome of an election. Yeah, the whole problem of our elections has been the constant issues around perceptions of rigging, insinuations of rigging, and the subsequent refusal to accept results. I read the BBI text cover to cover. There is nothing in that text that would stop the next contestants from contesting the result of elections and refusing to accept the outcome of an election and swearing themselves in illegally or doing those other things that have been done before.
Right.
So I have a different view. You know, I have a different view. I agree that we must make our politics less toxic and less tribal.
Right.
But I do not think changing the constitution would make us achieve that. I think organizing our politics around competent, democratic, national parties is the way to go.
So you would vote
building the institutions of a political party
is what
will guarantee us that these are democratic political parties. These are national political parties.
Right.
The manner in which we had tried to craft the two formations when we went into the last election.
So then would you vote no if the referendum, say, was held next week? You said we do not need...
I think that's a question about it's guesswork. You are asking me to engage in guesswork, Sophia.
If it were to come as has been before,
if
it hits
we will cross every river when we get there.
Yes.
But maybe I would say the following.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My thoughts around this whole BBI thing. Yeah. My position is this:
Right.
that as things stand now, BBI is illegal, is unconstitutional, it is null and void to the extent that the courts have said. Right?
Yeah.
That's the situation as it is.
Yes.
My position,
Right.
and that is why I agree with the judgment of the court, is that we must not set a precedence that you can change the constitution using unconstitutional and unlawful means.
All right.
That is
your position.
That is dangerous,
Yeah.
Sophia. It is very, very dangerous.
And we are waiting for the appellate process.
Reason?
Yes.
There are two things that are fundamental on the BBI process. Number one, how do you change the constitution? It cannot be that you can change the constitution the way you want, in the manner in which you want, to the extent to which you want, because you have power, you have influence, and you can use a mechanism.
So you agree the president's initiative as the court ruled.
So that trajectory, if we go that route,
Yes.
yeah, you may change the constitution the way it is proposed by BBI. But then you will have set a very, very dangerous precedent,
And yet-
that the next person
can follow.
with power, with influence, with money, can come and change this constitution in such a manner that you will never recognize it. You can even create a monarchy, you can create a dictatorship, because if the measure for changing the constitution is that you wield enough power and influence, and you can drive the system to achieve what you want. And that is why the court said correctly that for you to change the constitution, there must be steps.
So,
Number one, public participation. Number two, you must engage in civic education.
Correct.
Number three, you must have a constituent assembly like the one we had, Bomas 1, Bomas 2. You must also go to parliament, and you must go to a referendum, so that no person, however powerful, however influential, whatever the machinery you have, cannot change the constitution the way they want.
But Your Excellency.
And secondly, let me just finish.
Right.
So that's on the process.
Right.
Secondly, I have a problem with some of the provisions of the proposals. To change the system of government. We came from a hybrid system where members of parliament were also ministers. And we argued all the arguments we had, that it was an insecure system, it made accountability difficult. And now BBI is actually taking us back to where we got, where Moi left the constitution, right?
Okay.
With a parliament that also has ministers. It also has issues about ombudsman in the judiciary.
And some of those you have canvassed.
So I have those two issues.
Challenges. However, this talk of a referendum, the principals maintain it is still on. Reggae is still on. Do not worry. It may be facing the headwinds in the judicial system, undergoing appeal at the moment. So then, from where you sit, to those who say the election date next year, that eventually BBI will find its way and there will be a referendum, and that this would, in a sense, occasion postponement of the election from August next year to a later date to ensure those provisions come into effect. What do you say to that?
First, let me say the following.
Yes.
That when the Constitution was changed in 1982 to provide for, to say Kenya is a one-party state.
Right.
Yeah. It was a big thing, you know, because it changed the Constitution of Kenya in a way that was substantial.
Yes.
That's what BBI is almost doing. It's actually a parallel.
One-party state.
It's a parallel, right? I just wanted to make that statement because we must be careful that the Constitution is not a textbook. The Constitution is not an essay.
Yeah.
The Constitution is the Constitution. And that is why there is the principle of a basic structure that you cannot change the Constitution at whim. Let me leave that there.
Yes.
Coming to the postponement of elections, the people who are talking about the postponement of elections, they have told us that you must change the Constitution whether you like it or not, whether the Constitution, whether the law, whether the courts like it or not. And if you don't, we are going to postpone the elections. That is the language of impunity. Yeah? And it has no space in this Kenya. We are a government that believes in the rule of law. I know for sure that this administration will not accept to do anything unconstitutional or illegal.
And yet many court orders have been disregarded, sir. Many will listen to that and say many have been disregarded.
I am very sure
yes.
that there will be elections next year. The second Tuesday of August, there will be elections.
Yes.
And Kenyans will elect new leadership, whoever they may be.
So you rule out the possibility of postponement. However, the point also...
It doesn't exist. That possibility does not exist of postponing elections. It is not there.
The president says that the majoritarianism of certain communities dominating the presidency ought to come to an end, that two tribes have pretty much been oscillating between this seat and that needs to end, and that BBI in that expanded executive allows for more people to come in and inclusivity and others in the various regions, Kenyans seeing their own at the very top. Is that a valid point from where you sit?
I have no problem, absolutely, with an expanded executive. I have no problem. I am one person who does not subscribe to ethnicity.
Yeah.
And my record stands out. I supported Moi. I supported Raila. I supported Uhuru. And so my support for any candidate is not necessarily because they come from my community or whatever else. There is a push that our problem is ethnicity. I have a completely different view. Our problem is not ethnicity.
What is it?
Our problem is leadership and the economy.
But you've been talking about tribal kickings, that tribal politics
exactly.
being a problem.
You know, that's why I'm saying they want to tell us the solution to our problems is to change the constitution so that a few, 3, 4, 5 people can be accommodated in that arrangement, and then our problems are over. That's not the case. You know, it's not tribalism. That's not it. It is leadership. Leadership is the problem. You know, we need to get leaders who can think beyond, plan, work beyond tribe. Number 2, the real problem we have is our economy. You know, if you say, let's change the constitution so that we can get a few positions, to me, let us get the correct policy so that we don't get a few positions, we get millions of jobs. Yeah?
Yeah.
They tell us, let's change the constitution so that we can share 35%. Yeah? Mind you, we are unable to pay 20%. Right?
Yeah.
My position is we should change policy. We should get the correct policy so that we can create more instead of changing the constitution to share. They are telling us, let us change the constitution so that we can share power. I am saying we need a policy that will create more empowerment as opposed to sharing power. We can create empowerment for ordinary people. Right. And that's why I am saying the solution going forward is a bottom-up approach. Change our economy. Instead of trickle down, we do a bottom-up. We achieved so much. We built the SGR. We built 10,000 kilometers of tarmac. And we connected 8 million people to electricity. We did 140 technical training college. And we didn't change no constitution. We didn't change no law. We just worked on policy, and Kenya can change tremendously. And I am a great believer that we can change this country in our lifetime if we get the correct diagnosis of what the problem is. It is not tribalism, my dear sister.
And yet you have said many times, DP, you have talked about the tribal leaders, leave them, the tribal kingpins. So now you're saying tribal politics.
No, that's exactly.
Tribalism, ethnicity, negative ethnicity is not the problem.
I mean, I'm telling you, the people who are telling us tribalism is the problem, they are not telling us the truth.
You have been telling us we need to move from tribal politics and personality politics to what you've described in fairness.
Exactly.
But now you're saying it's not a problem.
That's why I'm saying they are telling us we need to get the solution, that they will give us the solution. That will not give us the solution. The solution will come when we sort out our economy. The solution will come when we measure every leader. William Ruto must be measured, not because he's a Kalenjin.
But you have been deputy
what
president.
He stands for. What he stands for. You cannot just say, let us vote for this guy, even though he is empty, even though he has no plan, even though he has no vision. Let's just vote for him to satisfy the tribe card. That is nonsense.
But you have been the deputy president, 9th year now. You are talking about this approach and the direction the country needs to go with. And you have been in office all this time.
Yes.
Somebody watching you and wondering, so what miracles are these that will happen when you have been in power? But now you're telling us about this bright future.
I will answer you, Sophia. Let me say the following.
Yes.
You agree that we have built close to 10,000 kilometers of tarmac, do you? That's the truth. We have connected close to 8 million people to electricity. We have built almost 140 new technical training colleges. In fact, the students in Tibet have increased from 80,000 to almost 500,000.
Correct.
Including, if you read our statistics last week, 15,000 young people who were called to go to university, they actually opted to go to Tibet because Tibet is giving them new opportunities.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
You yourself, Sophia, have said I am a titular deputy president. So explain to me how you can at the same time ask a titular deputy president without roles, without responsibilities. How can you at the same time tell him that why haven't you performed?
So you are associating with the successes of Jubilee on one hand, and on failures you extricate yourself on the part of saying titular deputy president. But to the point that you said you have done all that, so is it to say if Deputy President William Ruto next year becomes president, he would continue with this Jubilee's agenda pretty much? Because you say you have done all these things.
There are major things that require continuity.
Like what?
Yeah. We need to complete our program on the on infrastructure, on the roads. We need to complete our program on electricity. We need to complete the transformation to technical education. We need to urgently roll out our housing program, which will create about 4 million jobs. We need to urgently roll out our UHC program, and my ideas are very clear.
So it will be Big Four 2.0 in Ruto's administration?
And we need to do a different economic model, right? So it will be a mix of what we did, what we did not do. I will complete what we did not do, and we will blend it with a new economic model that ensures that everybody carries an equivalent burden of funding our budget and our development, and we urgently need to deal with our economy, and I have clear ideas on how.
On how. So because you speak, and we've talked about the titular deputy president now.
It's you, Sophia.
It's not me. You appear to agree. You've just owned it right now and said, now what do you expect me to do if I'm titular? Meaning, even you concede that there's not much you have done because you have not pretty much had a job. You have been sitting here at the Hustler Mansion, the official residence of the deputy president. But the question I seek an answer to is then, how you rate the performance of the government in this second term. How would you say Jubilee has performed in this second term?
Well, we have managed to carry through our program on infrastructure, largely the extension of the railway to Naivasha. Now we are doing the meter gauge going on from there. We have our robust road network program, which we started in our first term, that is continuing. You can see the overpass right here in town and many other roads.
So you think
that are ongoing.
Strong performance.
We have, however, we have not done very well with our housing program because we haven't rolled it out as we should. We haven't rolled out our UHC program, which we again promised, and the whole area of agriculture and value addition and agro-processing all the way to manufacturing hasn't come out. So these are the areas that.
And what do you attribute this to?
Maybe that question would be best answered because there are people who the president assigned and entrusted the implementation of the Big Four to. Yeah, when it wasn't in my space, other people were given that responsibility.
Yeah.
Maybe they are best placed to answer why this has not happened. I can tell you for free that if I had the same latitude as I did in our first term, the story would be very, very different.
Yeah, so definitely two separate, different positions on how this second term is looking. I wonder, going back to BBI, whether from where you sit, it was in any way set to derail your presidential ambition. Some of your supporters have opined that way. Do you share that sentiment?
I don't think so. The BBI thing is a bigger danger than just William Ruto. Yeah. So it would be an overkill if it was meant to derail anybody.
Yeah.
My position on changing the constitution is that there must be a process that is credible, that is not opaque, that is not subject to manipulation. A process, as the courts recommended, that involves the participation of the people of Kenya in a legal manner and in a comprehensive way, so that we arrive at a product that the majority of Kenyans can share.
So to the hustler nation and hustler narrative, and talking about a bottom-up approach, so the point you just made earlier, it is not the case that you will completely abandon the policies of the Jubilee administration. You're talking about Big Four being some of the things that you intend to take into an Uhuru, or rather a Ruto administration, I beg your pardon. So how is this gelling happening of what has happened in this term and what you seek to do?
You see, if I tell you that I was part, to a large extent, of what happened in first term, and in my rating, we did very well in our first term, right? You will say I'm cherry picking, right? That's what you will say, but that's the truth, right? Because as an insider in this administration, I know what works. Yeah, I know what works. And I have participated in making things work. You know, the whole aspect of changing the building code. I sat in my boardroom here with Michael Kamau, Engineer Mosonik, and the Director General of KERA then. And that is how we arrived at 3 categories of roads. Trunk roads, one called state construction, and another one called low volume. That's how we have managed to roll out a robust road network in the country. So I know what works, right? And I know what we can achieve. I have done it myself. I have seen it happen, right? It is only that I didn't have as much leeway or as much participation in the delivery of the Jubilee program in our second term. You know, that responsibility was given to other people.
Do you see the handshake then playing a role in that it came in, and I think you have alluded?
Well, maybe we got consumed, maybe. I think we expended a lot of time, a lot of resources on the handshake and the BBI and all this. And in the process, our program lagged behind.
Yeah.
And since I am aware, if there is one person who is best placed to carry through what worked and to change what did not work, if there is one person who knows what that is, then it is the person speaking to you. I do not think any other leader in Kenya occupies that space the way I do.
And of course, and I'm sure you're aware of this, it's questions that have been put to you many times, those who castigate on the promises, even made in the first term, that you think you performed much better, whether it's in the digital literacy that transformed from the laptops that were initially promised, and many other, the favorites, the stadiums as well. We've seen all of that. And so at this point to be talking about you're there, you do not think you're delivering, the government is operating as it should, and the handshake has pretty much come and derailed the agenda. The question has been put to you before, and I'll read to you something here. A resignation letter, April 14th, 1966, by Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, writing to the then President Jomo Kenyatta. This is what he said: "You have not given any consideration to me as your number 2 in state matters. I have a conscience, and this in fact does prick me, and I earn public money, but with no job to do. I consider this a waste of public money, and I am worried lest the future generation questions why my sincerity when they would learn that I allowed myself to hold a sinecure post in the midst of poverty and misery in our country. With this realization, I cannot continue to hold this position any longer, and I hereby tender my resignation. Signed, Oginga Odinga."
That is the difference between Oginga Odinga and William Ruto.
What is the difference? On principle, wouldn't you consider that at this point, we're on state matters?
That is the choice that Oginga Odinga made for reasons best known to him.
Doesn't your conscience prick you?
It does. I have a conscience. I have told you there is no responsibility that has been assigned to me that I have not discharged. There is no responsibility in the law, whether it is chairing IBEC, whether it is attending cabinet, that is my legal or constitutional responsibility that I have not discharged. And aside from the things that the president can assign me, I have things that I can do. You know, I am not obsessed with you know, what you can do to show that you have power or you have a position, right? I still do many things. Last weekend, why not for Corona, I was in West Pokot. I was opening a technical training college and speaking to people about the importance of them getting their children to be trained. I went to deliver a bus in a school, encourage the students there. I went to participate in a peace meeting where reformed warriors were being initiated from being cattle rustlers to being business people. So I have sufficient latitude to deploy my office to play. I mean, do you consider a peace meeting, Sophia, where we are encouraging warriors who've been stealing cattle to leave that and be businessmen? Do you consider that a campaign? Do you consider a delivery of a bus to a school to enable the school do better? Do you consider going to a technical training college and encouraging people? Do you consider that campaign?
But to the extent of the mandate that the Kenyan people gave you in the Constitution is principal assistant to the president.
Correct.
You are currently not principally assisting him. You are, the chief can do the roles you're talking about. The local leaders can do those roles you talk about, so they are important. It's not in any way to say they're not, but they can be done by other leaders. To the extent that the mandate was for Ruto support Uhuru, the president that have been elected on this ticket, and that's not happening. Isn't it the prudent thing to say, if this thing is broken and is not working, then if matters...
Maybe, Sophia, when you're blessed and one day you become deputy president, maybe you can make that decision.
But you do not think you can resign?
For William Ruto, I have chosen to make a different decision. I believe that I can still use the latitude given to this office to do more for Kenyans or other things for Kenyans. Would you tell the president, for example, he was in Nyanza the other week opening a road. Would you have told him, why have you gone to open the road? You should be in Nairobi doing something. It's not important to open the road. It can be done by a chief. Would you tell him that? I don't think so. It is important, to rally people because part of leadership is getting people to understand where
Okay.
government is going, what government is doing, how is it important, how is it necessary, why do we need to stop cattle rustling, how do we mainstream them into doing business. That's part of what government is supposed to do.
So this is then,
Sophia.
Deputy President, like a marriage, that things have really degenerated. Mom and dad have fallen out, but they said to just stay there, and all in the name of the kids.
No,
Is that what you're telling me, sir?
Sophia, I have told you this, right? The president is doing his constitutional duties in as far as the constitution is concerned. The deputy president has not violated any law or any article of the constitution
Right.
for him to warrant a resignation or whatever else.
Okay.
So, I mean, if it is working, why do you want to fix it?
So how long do you stay in something that's not working?
Sophia, I think you just better leave it.
We just leave it.
It is
That
not-
you're here
it
to
is not-
stay. Kama mbaya, tunashikilia serikali, UDA, Jubilee, all of them together.
let
so
me tell you.
balancing act, that one, isn't it?
Let me tell you that I painstakingly, with millions of other people, assembled this government by our own sweat and hands. Yeah, I think it would be the biggest act of betrayal if I were to walk away from 8 million Kenyans who voted for us.
But you're not doing what they voted for you to do, to principally assist the president. So then,
Have they complained to you, Sophia?
that is the mandate they gave you.
They have not complained.
Let me-
Kenyans are happy with what I'm doing.
How do you know? Have they told you?
Of course they have told me.
Those are the fans.
No,
There are some out there who perhaps would be wishing to come in here and say, Deputy President, you for some
You
reason.
will always have people who support you. You will have those who don't support you. It's the nature of politics.
So the thing is, and I want to take us back a little bit, something you said a little bit earlier, that when Jubilee is then in talks to possibly form a coalition with ODM, that you wonder, there are no consultations, they're seeking to just go right ahead. But if in fact things are so bad on one hand, why would they be consulting you? It has not happened, as you said, the PGs for a very long time. Is it a fear of what a strong coalition that would be coming up against UDA in the next election for you?
You know, people, have I told you they should not do it? They are free to do it. I've told you. It's only
But
that
you said they're not
it's
consulting.
only that as they do it, because they have chosen to do it without consultations, then we will have to do what we have to do. You know,
Which is
because I mean, organize ourselves around other alternatives. And I have told you clearly, the alternative we have at the moment is UDA. So as they organize themselves to merge with ODM and do whatever it is that they want to do, which is fine, we'll also organize ourselves with a lot of respect, you know, around other political formations.
So you're not averse to forming coalitions?
We are in a political party, or in the process of working a political party into
Right.
place.
Yeah.
We will deal with other things ahead of time.
I want to take us to the issue of the judiciary in this country, and a lot of the push and pull between the executive and the judiciary has been witnessed in the recent past. I wonder what you made of partial appointment of judges recently.
I think the people who are better versed in matters law and constitution, the former Chief Justice Willie Mutunga, the former Chief Justice Mr. Maraga, have said clearly that the right thing that should have happened is for all the judges to be appointed, and then subsequently, if there are integrity issues on any judge, then the normal process that involves a tribunal and first making a presentation to the JSC, and if the JSC finds merit, then a tribunal, and then those judges would then be subjected to due process.
So you would have, President Ruto, have appointed them all?
I would have appointed all of them.
The disregard of court orders, however, is a thorn in this country's flesh. You even once echoed the sentiments of CJ Emeritus David Maraga, who recently said that we are on the verge of sliding into anarchy. You used the same words. At the time, I think it was a church service, a public event in Narok, January 2020, and you said respect of rule of law, obeying of court orders, especially of public officers, is important, and those who do not will carry their cross. However, this administration has hit headlines numerous times for disregard, disobedience of court orders. So we cannot say obey and then do the opposite. So do you then see us descending to what you and the like of CJ Emeritus have talked about, and yet you are the ones disregarding these orders?
You know, it's not a choice that one has to make. Mm-hmm. I mean, the law is the law. Until it is changed, it is the law. The Constitution is the Constitution. Until something else happens, it is the Constitution. Mm-hmm. And it is for all of us, irrespective of the office we occupy, whether we are in the low cadres or in the higher echelons, all of us, if we are to remain a sane, democratic country, yeah, we cannot afford not to respect court orders, not to be a country of law, and not to respect the Constitution.
CJ Emeritus is talking about the president being candidate for impeachment because of violation of the Constitution.
Those are his views. I think...
So what is the cure for you, for an administration? Let's imagine some other country where court orders are being disregarded, left, right, and center, blatantly.
I think every country, of course, has its own laws, you know, and every country has the way they want to do whatever their thing, and how they want to manage and work on their public officials who do not respect the law or that kind of thing.
So in our context, who checks the president?
But I think to stretch it to impeaching the president, I think is stretching it a bit too far.
But there's no checks and balances. The National Assembly, the parliamentarians are not playing that role.
I think the courts can still find a mechanism of ensuring that everybody respects the law.
Which ones, sir? They don't enforce.
And
they don't
every
enforce.
Every administration must be alive to the fact that posterity will have a say on how any administration performed. And I do not think that there is any administration that will want to go down as the one that disrespected court orders.
And yet this one will.
Or the rule of law.
And yet this one will. The one you sit in and serve, it will.
You know my position, and I have made it public.
Those court orders started being disregarded even in the first term. It didn't start now. And
you have just helped me say it.
But it didn't start now.
That is my position.
The disregard of court orders.
And you see, when I said that, it was because there were officers who were blatantly, disrespecting court orders.
And yet they're appointed, not elected.
And claiming that they have orders from above. And it is against that background that I was telling them, there can never be any order from any above that gives you the authority to disobey the law. You must be alive to the fact that when the chips are down, you will be held.
And no action could be taken
personally
against
responsible.
Individuals who are appointed by yourselves, you and the president? Your hands were tied?
A lot of the officials, by the way, have been taken to court. And a lot of officials have been held to account whenever they have disrespected court orders or they have acted against the law.
Back to what is, I believe, your favorite subject.
Which is?
The bottom-up that we hear every so often when you speak. There's this concern, you have heard it, and it's a question that has been put to you before, but it is one of those that is worth repeating, that what you're coining in the hustler movement is creating this class of sorts, you know, pitting the majority poor against the minority wealthy. That class war. And it's still a sentiment out there. There's been the hustler dynasty conversation as well, that hustlers versus dynasties. I wonder whether you have done further reflection and seen where the people who think that are coming from.
There are no people who think that.
It
is me and us, you know. First, it is very pedestrian thinking for anybody to imagine that a war between the people who have and the people who don't have would get this country anywhere. It would not. That war is a war that would destroy this country. The hustler movement is not against the dynasties. The dynasty story was created by people who wanted to fight the bottom-up approach we are proposing. Let me tell you, Sophia, that from where I sit as a public official and as Deputy President of Kenya, I have a vantage position that I can see what can be done, and there are things we have done and we have achieved. And I am a very strong believer that we have close to 15 million Kenyans who today earn less than 100 shillings, right?
Yeah.
They are jobless. They do not have a business. It is my position that we must sort them out and get them into the economic cycle. Unfortunately, there are people who believe wrongly that if the person who does not have gets, the person who has loses. That's not correct, right? In fact, it is in the interest of the person who has, for the person who don't have to have, so that they can share, right? So this win-lose thing is a game of people whose thinking is limited. We can have a win-win. We can have a win where those at the bottom can be lifted. And by so lifting them, those at the top can be comfortable, right? And that's what I'm saying. In fact, our housing program was meant to address part of the bottom-up economic paradigm. Because of these 15 million Kenyans, statistics of Kenya, Bureau of Statistics, 15 million Kenyans who are hustlers, right? These 15 million Kenyans, the way to sort them out and to recruit them into the economic cycle is to make sure that they have jobs.
Yes.
Number two is to make sure that because they run micro, small enterprises, is to make sure that we support micro and small enterprises so that they can do business, right? That is the proposal I'm making.
So
how do we achieve it?
How are you supporting?
Yes, that's how do we achieve it? Number one, rolling out the housing program will give us 4 or 5 million jobs. And we have enough money, not public money. We have enough people. If you ask PS Housing, he will tell you there are enough people in the private sector who are willing to invest in our housing program. In fact, trillions of shillings have been pledged. All we need to do is to change the law, provide for the housing fund so that there is an off-take program for the houses being built. People have access to money for mortgage. So and we are looking at low-cost housing.
So right now then you're saying the challenge is the law as it stands is the problem, because all of these things you say are available. It's a project currently in play but has stalled.
And all that has not been done is to reorganize the law so that we have a mandatory contributory housing fund, right?
Okay.
And there are things there that is holding it, that beyond the law, interests. Yeah?
What kind of interests?
Let me not go beyond there. So that's the story.
Cartels?
That's the story. There is a cartel something there that we need to dismantle so that we can roll out. We will create jobs. Secondly, if you look at our budget, we came from a deficit of 200 billion. We went to 600 billion. We went to 800 billion. This year, the deficit is almost $1 trillion.
Yes.
What has that done? It has crowded out all the SMEs, driven them out of credit. In fact, SMEs have lost close to 100 billion on their own. Forget about the private sector. SMEs alone have lost close to 100 billion, meaning many micro enterprises have closed down. That's why when I say the problem is the economy, is that we need to sort out the economy.
But this economy,
so that we can get enterprise back. In fact, some of the enterprises, and I was speaking to some young people today, and I was amazed at how they understand. They're telling me, Mr. Deputy President, you just need even to decriminalize some of the enterprises.
So the
decriminalize enterprise, decriminalize hawking, organize hawkers into proper areas where they...
Yet this is the Jubilee economic blueprint we have been working on from 2013. So you're saying
it is different.
The double digits that were promised by you.
It is different,
in 2012.
Wanuna. It's a combination of many things, right? In our first term, we laid the foundation. In our second term, this was what was supposed to happen.
And it didn't happen.
Unfortunately, the people who assigned this by my boss did not do it. Either they didn't understand it, or either they didn't appreciate it, or maybe they didn't have the capacity to do it, or something, I don't know. So this is what we need to do. And if we build it from the bottom, we will expand the tax bracket.
Okay.
We will invest, and in fact, the first thing we need to do urgently is to inject a stimulus into agriculture. That's why the Big Four involved agriculture. We need to put money. For example, dairy is a big industry. It's a 100 billion output industry. We can actually double that by just, because we have the cows, all we need to do is find a mechanism of supporting the farmers to have enhanced feeds. That will transform. We can do another 4 million liters every day of milk. That will give us an extra 100 billion shillings every year, equivalent to what we are getting from tea.
And yet
we can triple.
Yeah. And yet,
just with a little effort, coffee production. That's what we intended to do. That's what should have been done.
And yet now the economy is buckling, that whoever does become the next president of this country is dealing with debt, huge debt burden, that literally borrowing to pay. The wage bill is another. There's the issue of corruption, of course. so that there's little wiggle room, even of these stimulus projects you talk about, that in as far as the money little left for development or for all of these projects, it's a real constraint, isn't it?
What would I do?
Yeah.
Yeah, what would I do? Next year's budget, I would not fire people. I would not reduce the size of the workforce. I would not do the things IMF are recommending to us now, because I don't think that removing money from this economy will sort it out. Reducing expenditure in this economy will not sort it out. In fact, it will crash the economy, and it will have a spiral effect going downwards.
But those are conditionalities for IMF giving you money, right?
I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
What I would do is, we are currently investing about 400 billion on development. I would cut that development into half. I would invest in brick and mortar, 200 billion, and I would take 200 billion and switch the investment, not in brick and mortar. I would switch that investment, invested in a stimulus in production.
Okay.
You know, so that we can produce more, sell more, create the MSME, the micro small enterprise, get them back
correct
to business by making sure that they have access to credit.
Yeah.
Right? And with that stimulus, be able to enhance productivity, be able to get taxes, and be able to sort out progressively our deficit. That's what I would do. And that's why I insist that the way to sort out Kenya is not to change the constitution to create positions for tribal leaders. The way to change Kenya is to sort out the economy. And I have clarity in how to sort out the economy, get the hustlers working, get the hustlers in business, get our farmers working, improve productivity, expand the tax base, make sure that everybody is carrying a fair proportion of the burden of taxes, and be able to grow the country.
I want to move this forward to 2 or 3 issues before we bring this to a close. One of them, there's the Kiamba by-election coming up. And it was interesting, the last Sagana meeting the president had, he talked of intruders trying to get into his backyard and destabilize it. And a lot of the defections we are seeing many people from that region joining the hustler movement. So is it that you're relishing this moment of going into his backyard to do what he has made public, that he was aware of those efforts and that this is in fact what's happening? What do you say to that?
First, whatever you're calling defections is your language. You know, the people who are working with me are people who are elected together. These are Jubilee members. They are coming to see a Jubilee deputy president. How does a Jubilee member seeing a Jubilee deputy president amount to a defection? You know, it's just a perception we are trying to create for, you know, there is war, there is what. There is nothing of that sort. You know,
you have a number
you would be discussing defection if people are leaving Jubilee to go to ODM.
Let's leave the semantics then. That there's a significant number, not significant, but a number of people from the region that are now part of the hustler movement. And in the backdrop of that comment that the president had made, that there are those seeking to come.
Sophia, again, please. You know, let us not discuss the president. Let me just beg of you, right? The dynamics of politics, the president, all of us supported the president, right? In a year from now, the president will be leaving office, right? The rest of us who believe that we still have an assignment and a future to work on, we want to organize ourselves.
There
are those who think organizing ourselves means we go and merge with ODM. There are those who believe organizing ourselves is creating a hustler movement that brings everybody on board, that is non-tribal, that is non-regional. These are just political organizations that are that are coming into play because people are organizing themselves for the future. And I think it's perfectly democratic for people to do that.
The other issue is...
Don't you think so, Sophia?
Let me ask the question. Thank you. The other issue is the one of the degrees and qualification for elected leaders.
Yes.
This was a bill that was tabled by the then leader of majority, Duale, passed by cabinet, which you sat in. It's an issue that has been pending, I believe, since 2010. So you are now saying it's unnecessary to go that direction, but you never held those reservations from the beginning. So what has changed?
I have always had reservations on the kind of qualifications, but you see, you can have reservations, but you see, when the majority have said this is how it is, that's the nature of democracy. You agree with it, right? But I believe... So
this is not a populist position next year, the election?
It is in fact, if there was anybody who would be supporting people to be educated, it should be me. I should actually be proposing that those running for president must at least have a master's.
So why not?
Or a PhD or something of that nature. But I'm saying the opposite, because the Constitution, if you read Section 38, I think subsection 3 of the Constitution, it clearly says that no unreasonable restriction should be put on either candidates or voters to participate in any election. Right?
Yeah.
And I believe very strongly that saying that an MCA requires a degree for them to be elected is actually unconstitutional. It is squarely unreasonable. You know, it is an unreasonable restriction on a person at that level. To be, and I'm not saying they should be illiterate. I'm saying a different classification of a requirement of education standard should be placed on different categories.
But this has been the law since 2011. Time was given.
But do you know why it has been postponed twice?
To give time for those who said they were just caught unaware.
But because it's unreasonable. I mean, everybody is coming to the realization that it is not reasonable constitutionally. And let me say this, Sophia. Only about 1% of Kenyans have a university degree. 1%. So, I mean, if somebody went to court and said, you have said 99% of Kenyans, you have denied them the chance to be elected.
Politics is not for everyone, it would be argued.
I don't think so. Then are you saying voting is not for everyone? Because the Constitution is clear on both. It says qualifications for voters, qualifications for candidates, and it must not be unreasonable.
Then why not move to court?
I mean,
on the issue?
There are different avenues. There are people who have gone to court.
Yeah.
There are those who think the law should be changed in Parliament. I am of the very considered opinion that if I am a graduate and there is a Form 4 school leaver who is vying with me for an MCA seat in some place, I should be able to tell the public, hey, I am more knowledgeable. I am more intelligent. Don't elect this guy. He doesn't have as much knowledge, and let the people decide. I mean, if the fellow who has a Form 4 certificate is ready to square it out with me, why am I scared with my university degree to square it out with this Form 4 chap? I think it is just reasonable. And let me say the following. Today, it is not a requirement for a CS to have a degree, right? A CS is fairly a senior public official.
Yeah.
I mean, so can you compare that? You don't need a university degree for a CS. you need a university degree for an MCA.
So perhaps we need to have those standards
That's number one.
for
Number
CS.
two, when you apply, you want to be Sophia Wanuna, you will be told you need a degree in journalism, right? You're a doctor, you need a degree in medicine. But in politics, we are not saying you bring a degree in politics. We are saying any degree, right? Because it's not reasonable to tell people the only way you can participate, you can be a politician, you must have a degree in policy making,
many of my colleagues,
or you must have a degree in
journalism, it's not
in
correct.
Political science,
Yes.
that kind of thing.
Okay.
So there
enough.
is a fair, argument that even when the Constitution said there must be standards, if the Constitution wanted it to be uniform,
Okay.
the Constitution would have said, let everybody have a degree.
All right. So finally, sir.
Yeah.
Away
And
from all
in any case, Wanuna,
yes.
even, we have pushed ourselves into a problem. Today, we have all manner of governors who don't have a university degree, but because it is requirement, they've gone to fake, they've gone to buy degrees in back streets.
And that is a
People who
real
have not gone to
concern.
school. Even some of the presidential candidates, my friend, their degrees are questionable. So we have a whole problem.
A whole problem out there. As we close this, away from the politics and all of the discussions we've had this evening, now that you appear to have more time on your hands, I wonder how you spend your days here, with the family. Are you out in sporting activities away from when we see you have the meetings? How are you spending your time?
I am a very busy person, Wanuna. I am a very, if you should look at my diary.
Right.
I have so much to do that is in the interest of the public. Yeah? I have so much material to go through. There
So
are issues.
a typical day is like what?
A typical day is
Wake
8
up.
to 5.
8 to 5.
8 to
Meetings
5 meetings.
here.
And meetings and briefs and public engagements, petitions from people, issues of what people want government to do, their ideas and things like those.
Yeah. And finally, to Kenyans watching tonight, I wonder if there's something you'd want to, a parting shot tonight as we wrap up.
To the people of Kenya, I want to allay any fears by the people of Kenya that there is any major problems in the country. The problems in the country are problems we can solve. These are issues we can sort out. And I want to tell the viewers and the people of Kenya that even the challenges that we have today as a nation, we have solutions for them. We can fashion, working together, eliminating ethnicity and the baggage that comes with regionalism and negative ethnicity. We can fashion a better Kenya together by creating synergy, building bridges across all sectors of our society, and working together towards a Kenya that is united, a Kenya that is democratic, and a Kenya that is built on the rule of law and constitutionalism.
All right. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you.
Deputy President William Ruto, for having this sit down with us this evening, the topics we've canvassed. We wish you the very best, and for hosting an entire team this evening here at your residence.
Thank you.
Asante sana and ubarikiwe.
Thank you very much. And it was a great pleasure talking to you for the first time.
Yes, it was. Yeah, that was a first one. To many more, perhaps what we should consider, because this was a special because it was a one-on-one.
Yes.
The idea of crossfire is that you have at least 2 or 3 people. So how about I pitch something? That I look for Raila Odinga and we have a crossfire session. Would you be game?
I have no problem with that.
You have no problem?
Absolutely.
So I will look for him and say, you actually, and perhaps he's watching, Karibu crossfire and Mheshimiwa Ruto. That should be an interesting one.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. And to all our viewers, thank you for making time to watch this special edition of Crossfire, coming to you live from Karen, the official residence of the DP. Asanteni sana. Keep your comments coming. The hashtag Ruto on KTN. I'm at Sophia Wanuna. On behalf of the team that made the show possible, we thank you for watching. God bless you.